If you're heading into retirement or already there, the last thing you need is hidden food stealing your health. And the worst part, many of the foods we toss into our grocery cart may look harmless and maybe even healthy. They're found in nearly every grocery aisle. Let's talk about the one food category to start cutting out now before it slashes your healthy years in retirement. Research reveals that ultra-processed foods, the fake, chemical-laden stuff pretending to be real food, is silently robbing millions of Americans of their health one bite at a time. If you're serious about staying healthy through retirement, start cutting back on ultra-processed foods and replace them with real whole foods. Hi, I'm Lisa, registered and licensed dietitian here at Sagewell. My mission is simple: to help you retire with a body that works at optimal health. Let's start with answering the question of what are ultra-processed foods, or in short, UPFs. These foods are mechanically formulated products that go far beyond traditional food preparation. And these sneaky little imposters make up over half of the average American's daily calories. The price we pay when we eat them? Accelerated aging, chronic illness, and fewer healthy years in retirement. These are foods made mostly or entirely from substances extracted from foods like oils, fats, sugars, starches, and proteins, derived from food components like hydrogenated fats, modified starch, or created in laboratories to enhance flavor, colors, blend emulsifiers, and artificial sweeteners. In short, not ingredients you'd find in your kitchen. Here are some common examples: sugary breakfast cereals and snack bars, soft drinks and energy drinks, flavored yogurts with stabilizers, instant noodles and microwave meals, processed meats like hot dogs and chicken nuggets, mass-produced breads with dough conditioners, plant-based meat alternatives loaded with isolates and additives, and the list goes on. How did we get here? Canning, developed in the early 1800s, allowed food preparation for longer periods, initially for military use. By the mid-19th century, canned goods like fruits and vegetables and meats became commercially available. Basic processing laid the groundwork for mass production, minimally processed compared to modern standards. This led to the rise of convenience for mass production. Brands like Kellogg's, founded in 1906, introduced processed cereals marketed as convenient breakfast options. By the 1920s, refrigeration technology led to frozen foods, popularized by Clarence Birdseye's quick freezing methods. Frozen vegetables, meats, and later, ready meals became household staples. Later, additives and preservation made their way with chemical preservatives, artificial flavors, and stabilizers to extend shelf life and enhance taste. Margarine, a processed alternative to butter, gained popularity in the mid-1950s due to a lower price point. And this time period saw a surge in ultra-processed foods due to post-war economic growth and demand for convenience. TV dinners, introduced by Swanson in 1953, symbolized this trend, offering complete meals requiring minimal preparation. Pop it in the oven and voila! Who else grew up on the occasional TV dinner? I really like that brownie. Food chemistry advances emerged with emulsifiers, artificial sweeteners, think saccharin and aspartame, and trans fats were widely adopted at that time to improve texture, taste, and shelf stability. Instant foods like powdered drinks, think Tang, another staple in the pantry, right? And instant noodles became a global trend. This in turn led to fast food and snacks. The growth of fast food chains like McDonald's and the snack industry, potato chips, candy bars, etc., fueled demand for calorie-dense, hyper-palatable foods with long shelf lives. Globalization took off in the late 20th century with multinational corporations like Nestle, PepsiCo, and Kraft. These companies expanded ultra-processed food markets worldwide, introducing packaged snacks, sodas, and ready-to-eat meals to developing nations. Aggressive marketing targeted busy families and children, emphasizing convenience and taste. Food scientists engineered products to be hyper tasty using particular combinations of sugar, fat, and salt. In 2009, the NOVA system was introduced, defining ultra-processed foods as new types of food processing. NOVA isn't an acronym, it doesn't stand for anything, it's just a new classification of foods. A bit more on NOVA in a minute. By the 2000s, research linked ultra-processed foods to obesity, diabetes, heart disease, and other chronic conditions. Studies, like those from the World Health Organization, noted their high content added sugars, unhealthy fats, and sodium, often with low nutritional value. Growing consumer awareness of health risks led to the demand for natural or minimally processed foods. Movements like clean eating and organic food became popular, although ultra-processed foods remained dominant in many diets. Governments introduced policy measures like sugar taxes, front-of-pack labeling, and restrictions on marketing to children. However, UPFs continue to lead in global food supplies, especially in large city areas. UPFs account for roughly 50 to 60% of dietary energy, calories. Ongoing debates focus on balancing convenience with health, as some companies reformulate products to reduce sugars or additives, while others face criticism for health washing, a term used in marketing UPFs as healthy. They're often disguised with health washing claims such as high protein bars, although these bars have like 20 ingredients, low fat yogurts packed with sugar, all natural or made with natural ingredients, implying the product is healthier even if it contains a lot of salt, sugar, or artificial additives. Keep in mind, natural or made with natural ingredients does not equal healthy. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration, FDA, does not have an official definition for the term natural when it comes to food labeling. More on health washing claims. Some may include boosts immunity without scientific evidence, or the product's effect is minimal or irrelevant. Another health washing claim is contains antioxidants, even if the amount is too low to have any real health benefit. Back to NOVA and the 4 groups. Group 1, unprocessed or minimally processed. These are natural foods that go through minimal processing to make them safe or suitable for consumption, like cleaning, removing inedible parts, drying, boiling, freezing, or pasteurizing. Some examples include fresh fruits and vegetables, grains, meats, milk, eggs, and nuts. Group 2, processed culinary ingredients. These are elements extracted from Group 1 or from nature and used in cooking to season or prepare foods. They undergo processes like pressing, refining, grinding, or milling. Some examples include sugar, vegetable oils, salt, and butter. However, if a vegetable oil is refined, bleached, deodorized, or blended with additives, it can edge closer to NOVA Group 3, which are processed foods made by adding salt, sugar, oil, or by adding Group 2 elements or ingredients to Group 1. I know, it gets confusing. The higher up in the number, the worse the food gets. These have endured cooking methods or adding preservatives to increase shelf life or enhance sensory qualities. Some examples from Group 3 would be canned vegetables, cheese, freshly made breads, and smoked meats. And Group 4, ultra-processed foods, made mostly from artificial ingredients and not much or any real whole foods. These often have things added like colors, flavors, and chemicals to make them look, taste, or feel like real food, or to hide stuff that might taste or look unpleasant. Some examples would be soft drinks, sweet or savory packaged goods, instant noodles, reconstituted meat products, fast food, packaged breads with additives, candies, etc. UPFs continue to experience ongoing debates about their role in health and sustainability, meaning to exist and develop without depleting the natural resources necessary to live in the future. Some of the pros and cons of ultra-processed foods. One pro is convenience. UPFs save time, requiring minimal preparation, which aligns with busy lifestyles. Another pro would be shelf stability. Additives and packaging extend shelf life, reducing food waste and allowing storage without refrigeration. And yet another one would be affordability. Mass production lowers the cost, making these foods accessible to a wide range of customers, especially in city areas. Another pro would be taste and appeal, engineered to be hyper yummy with optimized sugar, fat, and salt, making them most gratifying, almost addictive for many. And fortifications, some products like cereals and milk alternatives are fortified with vitamins and minerals, addressing specific nutritional deficiencies. Accessibility is another, available in various settings from supermarkets to vending machines, ensuring food availability in areas with limited fresh food access. And number 7, consistency. Standardized production ensures uniform taste and quality, unlike home-cooked meals, which vary, which is not a bad thing. The cons? Number 1, health risks. UPFs are linked to obesity, type 2 diabetes, heart disease, and certain cancers due to high levels of added sugars, unhealthy fats, sodium, and low nutrient density, meaning you don't get a whole lot of value in nutrients, just a whole lot of calories. Additives is another con. They do contain artificial ingredients, emulsifiers, preservatives, artificial sweeteners, the very thing that gives them the shelf life stability. These additives can interrupt gut health or have long-term health effects, though evidence is mixed. For example, trans fats were known to be unhealthy for over 20 years before they were officially removed from foods in 2015, with a grace period of 3 years for manufacturers to completely remove them. Another con would be low nutritional value. UPFs often lack fiber, vitamins, and minerals compared to whole foods, contributing to poor diet quality and robbing you of your health. Another con would be overconsumption. Their hyper appetizing components encourage overeating, disrupting hunger cues and portion control. In other words, you're going to eat more of these. Another con is environmental impact. Production involves resource-intensive processes, high packaging waste, and reliance on monoculture crops like corn and soy for additives. This is counterproductive for the argument of sustainability that I mentioned earlier. Another con would be socioeconomic disparities, meaning poorer communities often eat more UPFs because they're cheap and easy to get, although some people may not agree with that. But it can lead to worse health in those areas and make the gap between rich and poor even bigger when it comes to health. And number 7, dependency. People are getting used to eating ready-made packaged foods, so they're cooking less at home. This means fewer people learn how to cook healthy meals, and traditional recipes and food cultures are slowly becoming phased out. UPFs may offer convenience, affordability, and accessibility, but they come at a cost: your health. Balancing their use with whole, minimally processed foods is a common recommendation from most nutrition experts. Some argue that diminishing the value of UPFs can contribute to food guilt, disordered eating, or discrimination based on social class. Other nutrition experts who support the inclusion of UPFs generally promote a practical approach. They recognize the downsides of high consumption of low-nutrient UPFs like candy and soda, but they also value context, access, affordability, and nutritional engineering, which is a fancy way of saying optimizing nutritional content of food through various techniques like genetic modification as part of a balanced diet. My take on ultra-processed foods as a registered and licensed dietitian: I agree they can make life easier, especially for people with limited time, access, or cooking skills. However, they do contain high levels of added sugars, unhealthy fats, sodium, artificial additives, and most recently, bioengineered food components, which are GMOs, genetically modified organisms. That's a whole nother topic. Despite their drawbacks, I believe UPFs can be incorporated into a balanced diet if consumed mindfully and minimally. It's important to prioritize whole, minimally processed foods and be cautious of relying too heavily on UPFs, as excessive consumption is linked to various chronic health issues. Ultimately, the key is awareness, balance, and making informed food choices. That said, the health effects of UPFs are increasingly clear. They promote overeating because of their hyperpalatable, perfect combination of fat, sugar, and salt. People tend to eat more without realizing it. They bypass your natural satiety signals, leaving you hungry sooner. Some studies suggest UPFs disrupt the gut microbiome and contribute to systemic inflammation. A 10% increase in UPFs equal a 10% increase in death risk and cardiovascular disease and digestive issues. These are linked to weight gain and insulin resistance. A landmark study found that when people consumed diets high in UPFs, ate around 500 extra calories per day compared to those eating whole foods, even when offered identical calories and nutrients. My pro tip to you, if you're trying to decrease UPFs and it's a trigger food for you, like say chips, don't buy them. Don't bring them home. I know that sounds so obvious, but really, if they're not in your house, they're not accessible for you to eat. Don't let convenience override your health. Find your balance. Let me know in the comments what your one swap will be this week. Give this video a like if you've learned something. Subscribe for weekly no fluff nutrition and wellness tips in retirement. Download your free Healthy Pantry checklist and how you can identify UPFs linked in the description and pinned comments. Until next time, Sage Well.